Senator Jeff Merkley, thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time today. I know you're a busy man in the U.S. Senate, but I appreciate it. Let's talk about a variety of issues that are connected to the pandemic. First, there's reports indicate the House is behind another $3 trillion relief package, and that package would include money to the state and local governments, and I know that that's something that you've been interested in. And earlier this week, the Western PAC states, all the governors and stuff, sent a letter to Congress and said that they needed at least $1 trillion in aid. So tell us, what is the status of this bill and what are its chances?
So the House has really laid out the vision for how to keep America on track during the recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. And they do include approximately $1 trillion in support for state and local government. I know I'm hearing from red counties and blue counties all over our state, and at the national level, we're seeing governors team up from both parties to say this is essential because they provide fundamental services, housing, healthcare, education, public safety, and those services we need to be able to sustain throughout this crisis.
So I think at last count, there were 48 states that have some kind of modified reopening going on in place. And yesterday, I was watching Dr. Anthony Fauci, and he said that we kind of need to go slowly on this. So where do you stand right now on states reopening, and specifically the state of Oregon?
Well, I think we have to turn to the experts and say what's working and what isn't. If we learn from our essential retail settings, that when you have masks, when you have plastic shields, when you have people, the customers wearing masks as well, and they're spaced out, that no spread of the disease is occurring, then we have a model for opening retail outlets. But we need to do so with carefully formulated guidelines that are based on the knowledgeable experience of the essential businesses.
Do you think people will actually wear the face masks?
Well, I think, if you're going into a store and that's a requirement during the reopening, then yes, I think people will. I know that when I've been in grocery stores and Target stores, virtually everyone was wearing a face mask, even though it wasn't required. So yes, I think people are anxious to re-engage in life, but do so in a manner that takes us forward and doesn't create a relapse.
Let's talk about something that you've been behind recently. I know you and Senator Ron Wyden, and by my count, 44 other Democratic senators are behind legislation putting a moratorium on shutting off the internet for consumers suffering financial struggles. So can you briefly explain what's going on there with that bill?
You bet. You can think about the fundamentals for families as food and shelter. And thus we're working on SNAP benefits and helping out food banks. Shelter, I was really pleased the House bill has $100 billion for rental assistance and $75 billion for mortgage assistance. So people who are really stressed at making their payment don't go into foreclosure or potential eviction. And meanwhile, we really understand this modern age. Being under your roof but without water isn't safe. You can't wash your hands. You can't wash your clothes. So on and so forth. You don't have water to drink. Water is essential, electricity is essential, and broadband is essential. So I've been working to help nurture a group of 800 outside organizations that are lobbying against cutoffs, saying that we need to make sure these essential services are sustained for all families. And you think about, just take broadband, for example. If you're out of work and you're looking for work, you're going to have to be able to get on broadband. Maybe you can't go to the library is shut down. So that's important to have that connectivity. If you're a student and you're supposed to get your assignments over the internet, how are you going to do that if you don't have broadband? So I'm really pleased this coalition has come together, won the fight to get it into the House bill, including a $4 billion fund to help people connect who can't afford to connect during this crisis.
Do you think it's time that the internet should be regulated like a utility, like power or water?
Well, it's a beast all its own, but I think the most important piece in terms of regulation is to go away from the concept that's being promoted by the Trump administration of charging more for the fast lane and leaving everyone else behind. Net neutrality, I'm a passionate advocate for that everyone should be able to use the internet, not let the big, powerful companies squeeze out the startups.
Well, Senator, are you staying healthy? You washing your hands and stuff?
I am practicing so many forms of health. You know, it's it's interesting to think about how we modify our conduct. I think I'm going to do a little video of how to make sure you open doors with your hip and you press the elevator buttons with your knee. You know, and just keep your hands off of everything, and that can go a long ways to cutting communication of disease.
Well, Senator, I know you're a busy man, and we appreciate you taking a few minutes of your time today. Best of everything to you, and stay healthy.
Thank you, Tim. Likewise, stay healthy. Take care.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Oops, hang on.